Hi Booktube! Happy Monday! I thought I would start the vlog with talking about some of the books I want to read this week. I want to read actually a book that I just picked up on Friday at the library bookstore. Not the book sale, but there's like a store that's like ongoing throughout the year. And this is Chicken Today, Feathers Tomorrow. I couldn't pass this up considering I read like 2 weeks ago. I read a book on Oregon logging, and this is another book on logging, but like more of a humorous tale of it. So I just couldn't say no to reading that. Here's the author here. So yeah, there's like they're chasing a chicken, and yeah, in a way, like I don't exactly agree with like all the like devastation of logging, because like if you drive around here, even in a little bit into the country at all, you see like there's so many like just like tree stumps as far as you can see in some spots, and it's just sad to see. Even though I know we need like to build houses, it's hard seeing all that devastation. So yeah, want to get to that one. And then I want to read all the books, and this is Gothic Treasure Trove, and includes a bunch of authors. So there's 5. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 books in here, and I would like ideally to read one each day or so, and just get through the whole collection. We'll see how that happens. I might be completely like tapped out of Gothic fiction after that, but I want to make some headway. I want to read at least 3, let's say, and the other 3 I can read later on this month. But I'm going to start with Moonraker's Bride by Madeline Brent, and that says Lucy's parents have died, and let's see, and so she's spent her entire 17 years in an orphanage. And then now there's the Boxer Rebellion is threatening her life and the life of there's like foreigners in China. Okay, but no one is anticipating the danger awaiting her at the mansion called Moonrakers, or the courage Lucy would have to find herself to meet it. So okay, so let's see if there is, because I know each story has some pictures. So here is the mansion, and there's our main character here, and then it opens up with the China, maybe her house in China. And I know occasionally as well there's maybe other pictures, or is it just the opening? Okay, yeah, I think it's just the opening opening chapter that has illustrations, but I'll take it. Some illustrations are better than none. So yeah, I'm gonna start with that today. Okay, that one. And then this last one is The Dark 30 Southern Tales of the Supernatural. This is illustrated by Brian Pinkney, and this is by Patricia C. McCaskick, and this is a Newbery honor book. And it's like an ongoing project of mine to get through all of the Newbery winners and runners-ups, and I was just like looking through the collection I had for the Newbery books, and I was like, this is perfect for October, like the Southern fiction. But yeah, okay, I can see there is some illustrations, and this is like a giant, it's like a magazine, style size book. But yeah, so like I should be able to get this pretty quickly. There's 10 stories overall. So yeah, if I like same with the other collection, if I read for this one, if I read 2 a day, before I stop reading for the night, then I can get through the whole thing. So yeah, that's just a little bit of what I'm going to be reading this week. And I will just everything else I'm just leaving up to my whim of what I want. Cause it's a bit of like mood reading in there with like the planned TBR. I don't know if you can see it, but these are all the books. This last shelf, bottom shelf, is the books I want to read this month. The physical books I own. At least I want to make an intention of reading those, and then the rest are like audiobooks and ebooks. So yeah, we'll just see what I get up to. So I know I started making some bread today, and so I will insert the footage after this of what I've been up to today. It's a gloomy, rainy Monday, and it looks like it's gonna be raining all week long. So I was like, why not make some homemade bread? I've made this recipe many, many times, but it's been a while since I've made it. It's an oat wheat bread, and I'll leave a link in the description below to the recipe. So far, because I started making this, and I was like, wait, I should put this on the vlog. I have water, milk, and maple syrup, and then I'm going to add some oil and instant yeast. And it calls for an egg, but I need to go to the grocery store, and I don't have any eggs at the moment. So I made a flax egg to go in there. And I figure like the nutty taste of this, you know, it's just going to add to the oats and the wheat flour that's going to go in here. So these are all the liquids, and then I will show you once I've added the flour. I've added whole wheat flour, old-fashioned oats, and a tablespoon of salt. And I don't have a standing mixer, so I'm going to mix it with a spoon for a minute per the instructions, and then let it rest for 5 minutes. Okay, so I have stirred it with a spoon for 6 minutes after I rested it for 5. And now I've oiled the bowl, and it's going to sit here for around 70 minutes until it doubles in size. It's been an hour, and the dough has nicely risen. It smells delicious. I'm now going to roll it out and put it in 2 loaf pans, because I don't know if I mentioned this, but the dough makes 2 loaves of bread. I was making dinner and getting ready to serve it. I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot to show you the finished product. So I noticed that it isn't doming like it normally does. And it's a little more craggier texture on top. And then I went back and looked at the recipe, because like I said, I've made this many, many times. But it calls for oats, and I typically have in my pantry the instant oats, like the more fine chopped up version, but right now I have old-fashioned oats. So actually most recipes too, when you have oats in a recipe, ask for old-fashioned oats, but this one doesn't. It's rolled oats. I mean, you can use old-fashioned, she mentions that, but it will come a little bit more of a craggier texture here. And I think the not having a dome is maybe from the egg. That's the only other thing I did differently than I have before. But I mean, it's still like, you know, obviously it still it rose okay. And so here's the finished little texture here, and then you can see like in the bottom too, like it's like that craggy from the old-fashioned oat, but it still smells delicious and it tastes delicious. So it's just more of an appearance thing, I think, than anything. And yeah, as for dinner, I didn't show that, but I am making a chicken corn chowder, but like veggie style, with like a veggie chicken and all that. But yeah, hopefully I'll get to share more recipes with you throughout this week. Good morning, BookTube. It's 7 a.m. on Tuesday, and I'm fixing breakfast, so I thought I would share one of the teas with you and show you what it looks like. I'm having it in my Pals mug. I love this one because it's a rainy day outside, and I like it because it's yellow with the umbrella, so it fits with the day. But I'm having a chocolate croissant for breakfast, and I thought the hot chocolate would be perfect for this. It's a puree tea. I've never heard of this, and I have no idea what that means exactly. Let's see. Black tea, cocoa, chocolate chips. Yes, it seems very chocolate heavy, which I like. It has high caffeine. I typically try to stay away from high caffeine things, but since it's 7 in the morning, I think I'll be able to handle it. So yeah, let me show you what it looks like. When I initially unboxed the teas I got, I thought that these were going to be loose leaf, and luckily they're coming in these sachets, which is perfect, because I don't have the diffuser thing yet. I think I need that for the Christmas Advent one, but I don't know if you can tell. Maybe I need like a white backdrop here, but there is some chocolate pieces in here intermixed with the tea leaves. So yeah, it smells and looks delicious. Okay, here is the finished product. I added some soy milk to it. For black teas, I typically do add a little bit of milk to it, but it's pretty good. It has a very strong chocolate taste. I was hoping it wouldn't be too sweet, and it isn't. It's for sure more of like leaning more towards a bitter chocolate than a super sweet, like, you know, hot chocolate kind of thing. But yeah, very tasty, and it's going to go well with my breakfast. It's now around 9 o'clock on Tuesday, and I didn't talk about the books I finished yesterday. And so instead of talking about what I read today, because I haven't finished anything yet, I was like, I need to recap yesterday's books instead. So I read Ringer by Jerry Spinelli. This is a Newbery Honor book. And when I got this from the Little Free Library, my boyfriend was talking about how he read this as a kid and it terrified him, and I can totally see why. It didn't terrify me, but it's basically a dystopian kind of world where in the town the little boy is living in, he's 9 years old. The every single year, right around his birthday, there is this event where the town releases 5,000 pigeons, and all the people have to come in and either they're shooting the pigeons down, or there's ringers where it's boys who, once they turn 10 years old, are going out and wringing the necks of the pigeons that aren't dead yet. And so this boy is dreading becoming a ringer, and he looks up to his father, but his father has an award for being like a champion shooter. I think not the ringer, it was a shooter of the pigeons, and so he's like really mixed feelings about that, and he makes a friend with the pigeon and then starts having mixed feelings. Although this is all about trying to like conforming with what everyone else is doing. He doesn't think it's right, but everyone else is doing it, including he wants to be like in the friend group with all the other boys, but yeah, it's like that kind of contention. And I was getting frustrated a little bit because it took a long while for him to finally stand up to himself, which I can see since he's 9 years old, how that could take a bit to push him there. But yeah, this was interesting. It would terrify me if I read this as a 9-year-old. Even the cover is a bit spooky there. And then the other book I read was Moonraker's Bride by Madeline Brent. And when I looked up the author, because I never read anything by them, it's actually a man writing under a pseudonym. But yeah, I really like the cover, and I think I showed this earlier. But here's like our main character, tramping through the cold. And I was wrong thinking like these were the only 2 illustrations, because there actually are a couple more. Let me see if I can find them really quick. Let's see here. So that's good to know, because I know all the other stores will have, some illustrations as well. So it has like that spooky vibe where everyone's sitting around the table. And same as CJ, when I read that book, how like no one in the house that the guest is staying at, none of them like her, and so she just feels very unwelcome. It's like not 4th of July, but it was like Fox some kind of like celebration like with bonfires. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a sweeping with the wind. Is that the only one? And there's one more over here. Let's see. But this takes place in 2 different locations. There is, like, we have China, where our main character is born, and what's her name? Lucy, that's her name. Yeah, Lucy is born in China. Even though her parents are English, she becomes an orphan and spends, like, 17 years of her life in China, speaking Chinese and all of that, and knowing the culture, but all along knowing she's different than the people she's staying with. She's staying in an orphanage where there's, like, 15 other girls, and, they all look different than her. She talks about that, and, she wishes she, looked like them. But then there is a war coming on, the Boxer War, and so she gets displaced and somehow manages to end up in jail for stealing to provide money to the orphanage, and because she's kind of like running it by herself. I first mentioned that part because the caretaker woman dies, and so all the kids are on her own, and she's the oldest one. Anyway, so she gets caught for stealing, and the mandarins are talking about how they're very severe with their punishment. So she goes to jail, and all of a sudden, like, meets her husband, because he's dying. He's not dying, but he's going to be put to death for his crimes. And so he's like, why don't I marry you? I can give you the money, and, you'll be better off. So, yeah, and then but then once she gets married, then she gets sent off to England with these, like, people that's now taking care of her, kind of like as guardians. And now, of course, somehow that's the one thing. It was a little bit too convenient, because somehow this new family that she's staying with has connections with her dead husband. They don't know she's married. That's all kept under wraps. But yeah, there's a mystery involved. It's like old, like, Chinese not folktale, but this riddle where both sides of the family are trying to, I mean, not the family, there's two warring families, and both of them are trying to figure out this riddle so that they can get get the treasure. Like a treasure hunt, basically. So there's a lot of things going on in this story, and it was decent. I liked the Phyllis A. Whitney book I read the other day, CJ, more, but yeah, like, that was interesting to see. And then moving on, once I finished today's reads, I didn't even bring the book over to share that, but I'm still reading Chickens Today, Feathers Tomorrow, something like that. Once I finish that book, then I'll go on back to reading this. I figure every other day would be good-ish, for this book, that way I'm not constantly reading the gothic fiction. But the next one is, speaking of Phyllis A. Whitney, the next one is The Golden Unicorn by Phyllis A. Whitney, and I will, let's see if I can find that real quick. Yes, this is the one, and again, a creepy cover, kind of plain, but it has this weird floating face, like a like a moon, but it's like a doll's face or something. And I have my Powell's Bookstore at Night bookmark holding my place. So yeah, that's what I read yesterday. Today I didn't manage to read as much. I haven't felt the best. I've been feeling okay, just like tired, but that tea this morning that I was sharing with you, and I mentioned how it had high caffeine, and I don't drink a lot of caffeine at all, but it really hit me. Like 30 minutes in, I was like getting kind of like shaky, and like my heart was racing a little bit, and I was like, I steeped it for 5 minutes, and it said like 4 to 6 minutes, so maybe if I steep it less, like, the thing is, I bought like 2 boxes of those Halloween mixes, variety packs, and there's like, I think 10 tea bags total of this stuff, and I don't want it to go to waste. I need to figure out some way that I can drink it without like completely spazzing out. So maybe like dilute it more, or make a smaller cup, steep it less, something like that, so it's still like tasty and drinkable, but not so caffeine heavy. But anyway, I will talk to you tomorrow. It's now Thursday, and I have a bit of a assortment to share with you. I've read some books, I have some books to haul, and I have an unboxing to do with you. So I'll just start with the books that I've read since I last talked to you. This is a reread of Ramona the Pest by Beverly Cleary. Ramona is now starting kindergarten, and she is up to her usual hijinks in a way of, she's very independent and imaginative. And I just like the little description in the back. It says, she's a girl who cannot wait. Life is so interesting. She has to find out what will happen next. And so yeah, this was a really cute read, and I highly recommend the Beverly Cleary series. If you've never read it, I'm rereading it as an adult, and yeah, enjoying it just as much as I did when I was a kid. And then a book that I didn't enjoy hardly at all was The Family Game by Catherine Steadman. I've never read anything by this author before. And I'll have it to share with you because I listened to it on audio. But it's about a couple who, they seem to be like, the love of each other's lives, but there's constant like holding back from, telling everything. There's like lying, and just the story overall didn't make a lot of sense because the main character, the woman, she is really interested and fascinated by her boyfriend's family because they're like rich and wealthy and like this elite family. But then I don't know, it just doesn't make sense because she gets this tape, this recording that is like confessing this hidden secret, but she doesn't even listen to the full tape. And as a mystery reader, that doesn't make sense. Like, the reader wants to know the full tape. Why wouldn't she herself listen to the full like unveiling of this secret? But yeah, I didn't like it. The characters were unlikable, and the couple's relationship didn't make sense because it wasn't founded on any. It didn't feel to be founded on any semblance of trust or respect, and yeah, I just didn't care for it. But a book that I did like, but mixed, is Chicken Today, Feathers Tomorrow by Belle Taylor Hinder. And this is about a family that mostly takes place in the 1940s and 50s, and they are very poor. And so this is about how like some days they have chickens, you know, they're full flesh, like, you know, pretty chickens with all their feathers in. Means that, you know, they have money, you know, sustainable money. And then other days where the chicken isn't looking too good, it's looking pretty scrawny and, you know, has bald patches kind of thing. But yeah, they're just living like penny to penny, paycheck to paycheck, and often not even that. There's so many times in this book where they have no money for food. They're like going out in the wild looking for berries and, you know, different wild animals to take home and eat for the, you know, the meat and all that. But so that part was a little, you know, a bit rough, because I mean, but the thing about this book though is, the author, you know, wrote this is her like memoir, autobiography, and she has such a good humor about it, which would be really hard, because, you know, she's raising 3 kids, and, you know, often living without running water, or living in places where there's huge gaps in the wall, like it's just like planking, or living in a barn, or trying to convert a barn to a place to live, all sorts of things. Living in tents off and on. She started her marriage living in a tent for months. But she kept her good humor. And so what I liked was like they kept going from place to place. Like they wouldn't stay in a place long. As soon as like her husband was out of work, they would go to let's find a new place. Or sometimes they would go back to that place. They're constantly bouncing everywhere. Sometimes it would be a year, a month, a week. They didn't have any steady place. But the intriguing part of that for me is because it's mostly taking place in Oregon, is I get to learn a little bit about, you know, what it felt like to live in all these random places. And I kept looking on my phone to see. This was one of the instances where I would pick up my phone pretty often reading a book, because normally I don't do that. I try to keep my phone away while I'm reading. But yeah, I just wanted to see where all these places were taking, you know, where were they. But my hesitance on like fully recommending this book, I don't know how easily or readily available this would be to buy, is that she kind of like completely brushes off, or just kind of like says it in passing, of how her husband, because sometimes when they do have money, or even when they don't have money, he blows it all on alcohol, and she mentions it briefly of how often when he's drinking he hits her, and, you know, it's just like a shoulder shrug kind of thing, and okay, let's just get on in life and just take that as what it is. And yeah, I didn't care for that part. That was hard. I mean, but it was just briefly, like a couple sentences mentioned. It wasn't, you know, wasn't throughout the whole book or anything like that. This is not a book of abuse. But I know up until that point, like that was mentioned like 75% of the way in or something, and I was like, oh my goodness. But yeah, she lived a remarkable life, and I do really like the cover here. And again, here's the author. And then what I like too is like each little, as they go on like I don't know, like every 5 years or so, there was a bunch of pictures throughout. So let me see if I can find like here's her children, and they're like sometimes they're living in a place where they have to cross a river near a lake to go over to where their house is, and like their only house over there. Let's see. I guess it's like they're trying, you know, they're getting like meat for to eat, and there's like, you know, they're out in the woods. But yeah, this was good. Okay, so those are the 3 books I've read since I last talked to you. I'm trying to do better with including audiobooks in my you know, vlogs and wrap ups and whatnot. Okay, as far as the books I've got recently, I didn't purchase them. I got them from a little free library. And the first one, it was just so autumnal. This is Sarah Smith, The Vanished Child. And this cover, like the kid and the dog. Oh no, the kid and like a toy, are so creepy looking. But I've never heard of this author, or I don't know if this is a series or what. Oh, and it came with a free bookmark. This is Stark Street Library. But yeah. Okay, but this is taking place in New England in 1887. It says a millionaire was brutally murdered, and the only witness is his young grandchild, who mysteriously disappears. And now it's 18 years later, in Switzerland, and a man with no memory is recognized as the missing child. And then, you know, it goes on from there. And there's like a, you know, a light on in here. So yes, this sounds like really good. I need to like just add it to my TBR this month and get right to it. And then the other book I picked up was Without Reservations by Alice Steinbach. And this really reminded me of Eat, Pray, Love. I've never read the book, but actually that's one of the ones where I actually saw the movie, because there's hardly any movies I feel like I've seen. But it's she's going from, where is it? Let's see here. Paris and Oxford a little English village in Milan, and so it just talks about her travels, like all independently, without, you know, someone financing her or anything like that. So yeah, this looked interesting. Is there any pictures in this one? No. Okay, here's the author right here. And then the last thing I have to share with you is I have an unboxing. As I mentioned, like I think one of my daily vlogs, my boyfriend signed up for the Brandon Sanderson monthly boxes. And so this is one I just got in the mail, and this one just says Sunlit Man. This is like the, so some of the months I've been getting books, and then other times it's just been like little knickknacks of things. So the last one I shared with you was like the little knickknacks, and so this one I think is the book. So there's a quote here saying, "I once ate a live frog, you know. Well, it was mostly like a frog, had an extra leg or two, and was violet in color, but basically the same thing. Slimy, amphibious, etc. Perfectly nauseating in every regard. It wiggled as it went down. When I reflect upon it, it's going, okay, never mind. This quote is going all the way down. But normally the quotes are much shorter. When I reflect upon it, my illustrious life, that moment inevitably surfaces as the nadir of my experiences so far. No, I realize that as terrible, revolting, and miserable as that day was for me, at least I wasn't the frog." Okay. And so then the book, and there's some little ephemera stuff here. So I have a sticker. And again, like when the last time I did the Brandon Sanderson unboxing, I read a couple of Brandon Sanderson. I've read the Stormlight series, and I read the first 3 books in the Mistborn. Other than that, I haven't read any of these, so I don't know what all these characters are, but I have one of this guy, a sticker, and I have a pen of Kaladin. I know that one. I know who that one is at least. Oh, I have a bookmark. Does it move at all? No, okay. It's a really cool bookmark. And then there's a different scene on the back here. Okay, so this sticker is the character in this book. Oh, it's all wrapped in plastic. I have my handy dandy scissors here just in case I needed them. Let's see. And there's like the sprayed pages, sprayed edges. So there's black edges, and then the back is really pretty too. It's like, you know, like there's like floating cities over here. So this is called The Sunlit Man, and it's illustrated by Arnanda Souza, Nimbetz Sidro, and Kadraken. Oh my god, if I'm pronouncing that at all correctly. So yeah, really pretty end papers, and lots of red in here. And then the font itself, it is red. That's really cool. And then the acknowledgements have like some illustrations as well. And this is how like chapters start. Typically these books have like pictures sprinkled throughout. And they've all been different. Some of them have been like magazine, like the shiny papers, and then this one is like, you know, just a normal printed in the book. That's interesting. Oh, so yeah, now we have like the shiny magazine-y, like whatever this this paper is called. But yeah, that's really cool. All of these books have looked so they all look so cool. I need to get to them. The only one I've tried so far is like Tress something. I didn't care for. I tried so many different ways to read that book. I tried reading it, and then I tried listening to it on an audiobook, and it just wasn't my cup of tea. When I was looking it up, people were comparing it to what is it? Now, like the Douglas Adams series. Now I'm completely blanking on what the name of the series is, but I've never read that one. I've tried it, and that one too. I didn't jive with me. But if you like the humorous, I don't know, science fiction like that, then you might enjoy that one more than me. But yeah, so I just wanted to share the unboxing with you, and it's been fun getting these things. It's making me want to read more fantasy than I do, because I used to read a lot more of it. Like back when I was in college, I read about it just because my friend, who was a big time reader, she kept introducing me to all of the fantasy genre, because I had really pretty much stayed away from it up until that point, except like Harry Potter and some like Halloween themed books. But other than that, I hadn't. So like I read for a couple years there, I was reading a bunch of fantasy, but I've kind of like gotten away from it ever since. But yeah, I need to. I mean, I have read, dabbled, but it's not been like a core part of my reading. But yeah, this is making me really want to jump in on that. But so yeah, I will talk to you in a bit. Hi BookTube. So it's actually Monday, but I wanted to wrap up the vlog. I didn't get anything filmed on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Friday I had a very busy day. After working 8 hours, I went out to Ikea because I was trying to go ahead and make my way over into Portland before traffic really ramped up and get myself close to the bridge to go over to Washington, because I was going to help some friends move around some furniture and put up some picture frames and things like that, because they recently moved here from Oklahoma. So I was just out and about, and I don't typically do that, and it just took a lot out of me, driving in the rain, in the dark, going over an hour back home. So yeah, it was a lot, but I did go to Ikea, and not really for furniture that much, more for just I wanted to look at the Swedish like food market that they have. I like the lingonberries, and that's one of the places I know where I'm guaranteed to find things like that. And so like, before the holiday season comes, why not make a stop? Because I go there once a year, so I'm like, and when I went, I was like, let me just get everything that catches my eye, basically. So yeah, I wanted to share that with you. So I got the lingonberry fruit spread jam, and I got this last year when I went, and I really liked it, so I ended up getting 2 of these. This is what it looks like. And then I didn't see this last year, it might have been there, but it's cloudberry jam, and it looks really interesting. I've never had this before, and I don't know if it's like a raspberry marmalade or what. Yeah, we'll see. This is like what it looks like inside, kind of like a marmalade. I'll have to report back. And I got some Swedish candies. I'm not really a candy person, but I was like, why not try this? They're all in sorts of shapes. I feel like it's like a typical American candy, but we'll see if there's any difference. This is, and I don't know how to pronounce this, Lorda Goddess, something like that. And then I got some of these drinks. I've never had this either, but I like the Welch's grape juice or white grape juice. So I was like, maybe this is something similar. This is a lingonberry concentrate, and so you just put a little bit in a cup, and then the rest, it's like 1 part this to like 6 parts water. So this looked interesting. And then the other one, kind of like the cloudberries, is something I've never heard of before, is bilberry, and it looks like blueberries. So I wonder how similar that will be. And I got a sparkling cider. This is apple and lingonberry, or some other flavors. And I think this will be maybe good for New Year's, or like Thanksgiving, Christmas, something like that. And then as far as some food items, I got several different chocolates. This is chocolate with hazelnuts. I love that combination. And then I got chocolate with crunchy caramel almond pieces. And this sounded just delightful. It's king size, so this will last me quite a bit. Yeah, again, not a candy person, but I'll have it occasionally. Speaking of candy that I'll have occasionally, this is something I'm going to have daily, because this is an advent calendar, and it's full of Swedish chocolates, and I could not pass this up. Yeah, like dark caramel praline and cappuccino truffles, all sorts of things. This sounded so good. So now I'm going to have a David's tea calendar, advent calendar. Still waiting for that to come, along with a Swedish chocolate calendar. And it's funny because I now have 2 calendars, advent calendars, where for at least the last 5 years, if not 10 years, I haven't had any advent calendars. So yeah, I'm spoiling myself here. But I was like, why not? And like treat myself after a long day, and it being a Friday. So yeah, I was like, just go all out. And then Saturday, I was just absolutely beat from basically, working kind of sort of, for 16 hours. So I just rested all day, and I actually took a nap, which something I don't often do, but I was like, I just needed a couple of naps there to get me through. I'm not a long nap taker person. I don't know, it's like 5-10 minutes will do me, like a little cat nap. And then Sunday, again, very low key, just relaxing, taking lots of walks and reading. So as for what I've been reading since I last talked to you, I read a couple of physical books. I have The Spooky Express, Washington, a Halloween thrill ride. I saw this at a Little Free Library a while back, and it also had, oh, sorry for that. I just realized the camera might be shaking a little bit. People sitting right beside you, right up near me, because it's getting close to her walk time. Yeah, I also saw the Polar Express in the Little Free Library with this, and so I was like, why not give this a go? And it has all like the Seattle like landscape things. You know, there's like Mount Rainier, there's some bridges and whatnot, and there's like the building, but it also has like witchy things. I really like the little spider and all that on here, and the conductor is like a person with a Halloween head, and it's all told through rhyme, but the conductor actually loses his head. So along with the story's mainly like going through all the different parts of Washington and talking about the different people they have on board with him that are like, you know, there's a witch and dragons and spiders and whatnot and pirates. But along with that, like the conductor loses his head, and so they have to go find it and you know, put it back together again, kind of deal. But yeah, this was a really cute, super short book. Let's make sure there's any other picture here, but there's a map that doesn't make any sense because it seems like there's going everywhere. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, here it is. So if you know Washington at all, like they're starting in Vancouver, then going, like Vancouver is near Portland, right across the river, where I was at on Friday, and then Spokane is on the other side, on the tippy corner, then going down to Yakima, and then Kennewick, Walla Walla, and then Bellingham near Seattle. So it's like, yeah, there's like crisscrossing everywhere. But here's the bus that they're on. See, this is just a cute, really quick story. And then I did read another story in the Gothic collection that I had. It's like Gothic Suspense. And I read the one with like the creepy cover, The Golden Unicorn by Phyllis A. Whitney. And these heads, these dolls' heads, play a role in the story because the main character, she grew up knowing that she was adopted. And then her adopted parents die all of a sudden. And she wants to go find her real parents, and so she has an inkling of who it could be because the only thing she has from when she was a baby is a golden unicorn necklace, and so she thinks that's tied to an artist, like a reclusive artist that lives out off past like Long Island, one of those little coastal towns in New York. So she goes over there, and then she manages to be able to stay with the artist and all of like the family that's living there. But it's kind of like this previous story in this collection, how she is not welcome, and none of these characters are likable. In fact, the daughter of the artist has like a collection of these heads. Like all of her baby dolls, she's like ripped them off, and she like puts them in the guests' dresser drawer. She puts them out onto the beach, like these random bobbleheads. I mean, there's all over the place, and it's a little bit bizarre, to be honest. The story was a little bit bizarre, and there is a picture here of one of them on the beach. And I realized too that each of the stories in here are illustrated, but they're illustrated by different people. So here's the one where it's like, yeah, just randomly on the beach. But let me see if I can find the artist here. And here's the actual. While I'm looking for the illustrator, here's a picture of the artist. And it has like the 70s or 80s kind of style here. For sure, I feel like more 70s. Like she's looking at the house here on the beach. The location seemed really nice, but it's illustrated by Dennis Luzak. So yeah, this one was okay. I like the previous story better. The one that was set in London and China, and that one was Moonraker's Bride, because I feel like this one was written to be a little bit more atmospheric than Phyllis A. Whitney's, although hers is as well. But yeah, I like this one a little bit better. But yeah, hopefully I'll read more in the coming weeks, because I only read 2 of like I think 5 or 6 in this collection. Okay, so then switching over to ebooks, because even though I'm trying to make a point of reading my physical books, I realized that I have a huge backlog of books I had requested from my library through the Libby app, and so I really wanted to get to some of those. And I read Jen Campbell's poetry collection, Please Do Not Touch This Exhibit. And I watch her YouTube channel. She's a fellow booktuber. I'm sure a lot of you know about her channel. But I've only read one of her stories before, because there's not all that many that's available at my library. But I can't remember what it was called. It was like, I read it like 6 months or a year ago. It's kind of like the Grimm fairy tales. It's something to do with like brothers or sisters. It has a longer title. Anyway, but she writes nonfiction, poetry, children's books, just an assortment of stories and books. But this is a poetry collection that she recently published, and this seemed like very personal, because sprinkled in between some of the the poems was her like pulling documents from like medical documents like that was written up by nurses and doctors from her hospital stays when she was a child, and some of the hospital stays when she was closer to an adult. And so that part was fascinating to me, almost more than the poetry was, because one of them really stuck out to me. Like they were talking about how cheerful she is with, like, you know, there's like the lobster hands, and I can't remember exactly the disorder that she has, but you know, Jen Campbell herself can explain it way better than I can, because she's like some missing fingers. Like she was born, like it seemed to be like with like all of her fingers formed together with like just like an opposable thumb, and like she has some teeth issues and whatnot. She like dental work and eye surgeries and things like that, and that's some of that's actually covered in the poetry collection here. But yeah, I found those parts fascinating. And one part that really stuck out to me was a nurse who, because now she's like trying to go through IVF, because she doesn't want the genes of this disorder to be carried down to her child. So she's going through IVF so they can select the right egg that, you know, that won't carry over the disorder. But one of the nurses suggests that, you know, it would just be cheaper and faster if you just kept trying to have kids and kept getting abortions until you know, landed on the, you know, child without those disorders. And it was just horrific to like think about, or just thinking about like a nurse and in the medical field suggesting that was just awful to read about. And I'm nonetheless for Jen Campbell to experience. But yeah, I always try to read one poetry collection a month, and I don't read a lot of modern poetry, and so yeah, this was interesting. It was very raw and emotional and very personal, and yeah, so good for her, you know, sharing her experiences. And so the next one, I wanted something a little bit lighter, so I read The Worst Witch by Jill Murphy. This is a children's story. There's a bunch of illustrations in here about the worst witch, because she's very clumsy and is constantly doing the wrong thing, putting the wrong things in the potions, and you know, turning them all sorts of colors and doing what she doesn't want them to do, breaking her broomstick so she can't fly properly. Sorry, there is lawn maintenance people outside, and so I have the windows open, and so she doesn't like the leaf blowers, and so she's like, like, just stay away, please. I know. But yeah, and so it takes place at a witch like boarding school, and she ends up saving the day and you know, overcoming her obstacles of you know, just like paying more attention, I guess, to what she's doing. But yeah, this was a really cute story, and I do want to continue on. There's at least my library has like 3 or 4 other books in this collection, so I do want to read those. They're really short. The one criticism I will say is that it doesn't go in depth really at all. It doesn't give any like vivid descriptions of the scenery. It doesn't really pull you into the story, is what I want to say. Like, it gives you the story, but it doesn't really give you room for imagination, I would say. But good enough. Oh, and I just realized as I'm looking up close at the picture, because I was just reading this on my Kindle, the cat, because she ends up with a tabby cat instead of a black cat, but it all works out. Okay. And then another like witch-themed book I read was Spirits and Sourdough, a magical bakery mystery by Bailey Cates. And there is a cat named, I can't remember their names. I want to say Moon something. Moonbeam? Oh, I can't remember. Oh my goodness. But anyway, there's a cat and a dog, because there's like different familiars. Like each of the women have their own familiar. And so the main character has this dog here. and then the bakery owner has the cat. But this is the 10th book in the series. I don't want to give away too much, but basically it's about a newfound a person who just found her powers because she was growing up in Ohio. She moved to Savannah, Georgia with her aunt, and come to find out that she has these magical abilities. She's like a herbal witch, practicing witchcraft, where different herbs will imbue different things. I don't know, all these cinnamon and thyme and all these different things that you can put together, and it gives you this I don't know, maybe lean you towards a different feeling or what have you. But there are other elements in here. For example, in this story, it's about ghosts. That plays a part in the mystery. So there are paranormal elements in each of the stories, and they're a little bit different each time. But yeah, this one just wraps up the story, and it's a really cute story. Every time I read this, I just want, every time I read a book in the series, I want to go to Savannah so bad, preferably in the wintertime when it's not so hot, because she does talk about how it can get hot. She's going out for runs at 4 in the morning to beat the crowds and beat the heat. But yeah, it would be a lot for me without humidity and whatnot. But anyway, I do want to make my way over there at some point. But yeah, those are all the books I've read and what I've been up to. I'm greatly looking forward to this next week's vlog, because I just found out, spoiler alerts for next week, but I just found out that the Disney movie Halloween Town, there's a whole series on that, was actually filmed about 20 or 30 minutes away from me. And every year in September and October, they have fall festival, Halloween events, and it has stuff from the movies there. And so I was why not take a little day trip over there and check it out? So I'm gonna include that in next week's vlog when I go. But anyway, it's been great fun sharing my week with you, and I will talk to you next week. Thanks, BookTube.